Hi, and welcome again to One Big Thing, a KAC legislative update. This week's big thing is conference committees. With only 2 days of committee meetings left, we have to turn our attention now to conference committees and talk about what we might see as the session winds down. Believe it or not, we only really have a couple of weeks left in the basic session. So things are going to move pretty quickly here now that we are getting down to the end of the session. We really only have a couple of committee days, like I said. So our focus has to turn to conference committees. Now, as a reminder, conference committees are a committee made up of the chair, the vice chair, and the ranking minority member of each committee in the House and the Senate. So that means if, for instance, the Senate Assessment and Taxation Committee is having a conference with the House Taxation Committee, the committee members would be the chair, vice chair, and minority member of the Senate Assessment and Taxation Committee, and the chair, vice chair, and ranking minority member from the House Taxation Committee. Those 6 individuals would make up the conference committee, and that conference committee would then be able to discuss any bill that is in conference. So how does a bill get into conference? Well, there are a couple of different ways. The first way is for a bill to pass both the House and the Senate, but pass in 2 different versions. That means that either the House made changes to a bill after it received that bill from the Senate, or the Senate made changes after it received a bill from the House. If those changes have been made, the House and the Senate will meet to discuss the changes and decide which version of the bill they actually are going to pass. They will conference on that bill to determine which version passes, and that's the version that they will send to each chamber for a final vote. When the House and Senate conferees meet, it will be just those 3 individuals from each chamber. They will discuss the bill and ultimately sign what is called a conference committee report to send that report to the House and Senate respectively to vote on the report. Unlike a regular bill, a conference committee report requires a yes or no vote. There are no amendments to a conference committee report. That means that if you are not on the conference committee, you do not get to determine what is in or is not in the conference committee report. You can only vote yes for the entire report or no for the entire report. You don't get to pick and choose different items or amend things in or out of that conference committee report. That makes things very complicated because oftentimes in conference committees, we will see multiple different bills or multiple different ideas and concepts bundled together inside of a conference committee report. This happens often with tax and obviously with the budget. There will be multiple different ideas that are bundled inside of each conference committee report. And so it's difficult to determine whether or not somebody is voting for or against any single item that is in that report because all of those things are bundled together. So you have to decide whether you just don't like something enough to vote against the entire package or whether you like some of the other stuff enough to hold your nose and vote for the entire package. The other way a bill can go into conference committee, though, is what we call either a gut and go or just using a bill as a shell. And what happens with that is a bill that has passed one chamber but did not receive action on the other chamber may be placed inside a bill as a shell. So they may take a House bill, for instance, the Senate may take a House bill and put the contents of a bill that already passed the Senate into that House bill. So now they have a different version of the House bill than what the House passed. That bill then will go to conference where they can discuss it. There's also what's called a conferenceable item, which is only passed one chamber but not the other. Those items can also be discussed in conference committee and could be added to a conference committee report. If a bill did not pass either chamber, it should not be considered in a conference committee report, although from time to time we do see exceptions made for that. Be prepared to see a lot of activity on conference committee reports this year because we have seen a lot of bills that, because of the condensed schedule, just haven't had time to be acted on by the other chamber, or they have had time to be acted on by the other chamber but have not passed the other chamber yet. So we could see a lot of activity in conference committees here in the coming days. That's all for now. But if you have questions about conference committees or about any other bill, please let us know at KAC. We will see you next week as we get closer and closer to the end of the 2025 legislative session.